Starseeds and lightworkers, something in you paused today. Not because the title was clever, but because a part of you, the part that remembers, recognized something in those words before your mind could explain it. I am Tyron, a representative of the High Council of Sirius, and I want you to know that recognition you just felt is not imagination, it is remembrance. Something very old inside you has been waiting for exactly this kind of stillness, and it drew you here with a precision no algorithm could replicate. By the end of this message, you will understand why you were asked to stop and what the Source has been holding in reserve for souls who have carried as much as you have. There is a particular kind of starseed who has been walking this earth in a state of quiet exhaustion. Not the tiredness that comes from too little sleep, but the kind that lives beneath the surface like a river that has been flowing upstream for too long. You have been translating a world that does not yet speak your language. You have been holding light in spaces that did not always welcome it, and somewhere along the way, you began to wonder if the signal you came here carrying still had a destination. It does. These are not the final instructions, because the mission is ending. They are final because the waiting is over. The current has shifted. What was held back is now moving forward, and the Source does not send this kind of transmission to souls who are not ready to receive it. You did not stumble here. The waters of Sirius carried this message to you with intention, with care, and with a knowledge of exactly where you are right now. Stay with me until the end. What is coming next was prepared for you, and I am grateful you are here with me now. That ache you've been carrying, the one that lives just beneath the surface, the one you've tried to name 100 times and never quite could, that isn't a wound. It's a signal. It's the frequency of something ancient inside you that has been waiting, with extraordinary patience, for this exact moment to speak. And the fact that you can feel it at all, that it rises in your chest when the world grows quiet, that it stirs in you at the edges of sleep, that it finds you in the middle of ordinary moments, and reminds you that something else is true, that is not a burden. That is a gift. That is the deepest part of you, refusing to be silenced by the noise of a world that was never quite calibrated to your frequency. Think of it this way. Deep beneath the ocean floor, there are thermal vents, the places where the pressure of the Earth's interior pushes upward through solid stone, releasing heat and light and mineral-rich water into the freezing dark. No one on the surface can see them. No one above the waves can feel their warmth. But the life that forms around them is extraordinary, resilient, luminous, entirely unlike anything that exists in shallower waters. That ache you've been carrying is your thermal vent. It is the place where something far older and far deeper than your surface story is pressing through. It has been pressing for a long time, and now, finally, it is finding the opening it has always been moving toward. You didn't find yourself here by accident. Nothing about your path has been random, even when it felt like chaos, even when it felt like you were falling through something with no floor. The water doesn't move without reason, and you didn't move without reason either. Every turn, every detour, every season that felt like it was pulling you backward rather than forward, all of it was directional, all of it was purposeful. The river does not understand itself as lost, simply because it cannot see the ocean from where it is. It moves anyway. It carves anyway. It trusts the gravity beneath it to know where it's going. Even when the surrounding terrain is dark and unrecognizable, you have been that river. And the fact that you have kept moving even in the dark, even without a visible destination, is one of the most profound acts of courage this lifetime has witnessed from you. There's something you need to understand about the disconnection you've been feeling, that strange sensation of being present in your life, but somehow not quite of it. like you're watching yourself from a slight distance, like the world everyone else seems to agree on doesn't quite match the world you sense underneath it. That feeling isn't a malfunction. It isn't anxiety or confusion or spiritual immaturity. It is the exact sensation of a soul that remembers more than this moment, more than this name, more than this single lifetime pressing up against the boundaries of an identity that was always too small to contain it. It is what happens when something infinite tries to fit itself into a frame built for something far smaller. The frame doesn't break the soul, but the soul does press against the frame. And that pressure, that sense of almost but not quite, of yes but also something more, that is the truest evidence that you are not what you have been told you are. There is a reason that the great mystics across every tradition, from the temples of ancient Egypt to the desert fathers, from the Sufi poets spinning in their longing to the Buddhist monks sitting in decades of silence, all described this same sensation, this sense of being both here and elsewhere, this inability to be fully satisfied by what the world offers, while simultaneously being unable to explain exactly what it is that's missing. They were not broken. They were not confused. They were simply carrying more than their immediate circumstances had room for. And so are you. The disconnection is not a diagnosis. It is a description of someone whose soul has traveled further than this life has language for, who carries memories in their cells that no history book has recorded, who hears something in the spaces between words that most people have learned to stop listening for. That's not pathology, that's lineage. Most starseeds don't feel lost because they lack purpose. It's the opposite. Deep inside, your soul carries a knowing so vast that this world sometimes feels too small to hold it. That ache you feel isn't emptiness, it's overflow. It's the pressure of carrying something immense in a world that doesn't yet have the language for what you are. And for a long time, that pressure had nowhere to go. So, it turned inward. It became doubt. It became the quiet voice that asked, in the darkest hours, am I enough? Am I doing this right? Is any of this real? That voice was not your enemy. That voice was your depth calling to you, in the only way it could reach you when all the other doors were closed. It was not trying to diminish you. It was trying to find you. In the language of the ocean, the deepest pressure is not a sign of danger. It is a sign of depth. And depth is where the most precious things form. Think of the questions you have asked yourself in the darkest hours of this life. The ones that felt unanswerable, the ones that made the people around you uncomfortable, or confused, or dismissive. Why am I here? What does any of this mean? Why does connection feel so hard when I can feel everyone so deeply? Why do I see suffering and feel it in my own body as if it's happening to me? Why does the world feel both too loud and too silent at the same time? Those questions were not symptoms of something wrong with you. They were proof of something right with you. They were your soul doing what it came here to do, refusing the shallow water, refusing the easy answer, pressing always towards something more true, more whole, more real. Every question you've ever asked in the dark was the water working, shaping, clearing away what didn't belong, so that what does belong could finally surface. The disconnection you've been feeling is actually the clearest sign that your codes are ready to come online, and the waters within you are beginning to clear. There's a reason water has always felt like home to you. If what you're feeling right now is confirming something you've carried your whole life, the Sirian Water Codes is your next step. It holds ancient Sirian healing practices passed down through the waters themselves, techniques for releasing energy that was never yours, activating dormant memory through the sound of rain, and sealing your frequency with salt and intention. You'll find the link in the first pinned comment, but only briefly. Now, let's talk about what's actually happening inside you, because there is a process unfolding, and it has been unfolding with more precision and care than you may realize. This is not random spiritual turbulence. This is not the universe being careless with you. What is happening inside you right now follows the same laws that govern the tides, the same ancient rhythms that pulled the waters of the Nile across the desert and carved the Grand Canyon from solid stone. It is slow, it is deliberate, and it is exactly on time. The first thing to understand is that what feels like fog is not confusion, it's transition. Things have felt unclear lately, like you're trying to see through deep water. That murk, that disorientation, that sense of not knowing which direction is forward, it isn't a sign that something is wrong with you. It's what happens when old patterns begin to dissolve. When the sediment of a lifetime, the inherited beliefs, the calcified fears, the stories you told yourself just to survive, begins to loosen from the riverbed and rise into the current, the water becomes clouded. It becomes difficult to see through. But this is not the water becoming contaminated. This is the water becoming free. The murk is the old being released, and release always precedes clarity. The water has to get murky before it clears. You are not lost. You are in the middle of becoming something your old framework was not built to hold. And that takes tremendous courage, even when it doesn't feel like courage. Even when it just feels like getting through the day. There are mornings, perhaps, when the weight of it is almost physical, when you wake and lie still for a moment before the world rushes back in. And in that thin space between sleep and consciousness, you feel something you can't quite hold on to. But that feels unmistakably like truth. And then the day begins, and the ordinary things make their demands, and that feeling dissolves like morning mist. But it was real. What you felt in that threshold moment was real. That clarity that flickers at the edge of your awareness, that you keep almost grasping and then losing it, isn't lost. It's forming. It is crystallizing beneath the murk in a way that will one day make the waters so clear you'll wonder how you ever couldn't see. Underneath that fog, something else is happening. There is a blueprint inside you that goes far deeper than anything you were taught in this life. Not a blueprint of achievements or roles or titles, a blueprint of frequency, of original design. The Sirian wisdom encoded long before the temples of Egypt rose from the sand tells us that every soul that came here carrying star lineage arrived with a set of instructions written not in words, but in the very architecture of their being. Think of it like the way a seed carries inside its tiny shell the complete instructions for the tree. It will become the height of its canopy, the pattern of its roots, the exact shape of its leaves, the season it will bear fruit. Nothing of that future tree is visible in the seed, and yet nothing is missing. Every instruction is present, dormant, waiting for the right conditions to be expressed. You are that seed. You have always been that seed, and the conditions you have lived through, even the hard ones, especially the hard ones, have been the soil, the water, the light that the seed required in order to begin becoming the tree. You are not broken and searching for answers. You are whole and beginning to remember. And that remembering often starts as a quiet feeling, a pull toward something you've never seen but somehow recognize. A song that makes you cry for a reason you can't explain. A body of water that feels more like a homecoming than a landscape. A stranger's words that land somewhere so deep inside you that you have to look away so no one sees your eyes fill. A piece of ancient art or architecture that stops you cold, not because it is beautiful, but because it is familiar, as if some part of you was there when it was made. A dream that lingers long after waking, not in detail, but in feeling a warmth, a knowing, a sense of being remembered by something you've forgotten. These are not accidents. These are not the overactive imaginations of a mind that reads too much. These are activations. These are the moments when your blueprint receives a matching signal from the world around it and responds. The way a tuning fork responds to a note that matches its frequency, not by effort, not by decision, but simply because that is what it is built to do. That's not coincidence. That's recognition. That's your blueprint, responding to a frequency it was built to receive. Then comes the stillness, and this is where many starseeds begin to panic, because nothing seems to be moving. The clarity that felt so close seems to recede. The momentum you felt building appears to stall. The synchronicities that were arriving like gifts slow down. The dreams grow quiet. The confirmations stop coming, and the silence can feel like abandonment, like the current that was carrying you has suddenly set you down and walked away. But hear this: the current never left. What looks like stalling is actually anchoring, like a river that pauses in a wide, calm pool before it finds the next passage through the mountains. Your soul is stabilizing what it has already received before it can hold what's coming next. This is not a pause in your evolution. This is your evolution going underground like a river that disappears beneath the surface of the desert and travels through the earth in darkness before emerging miles away, clearer and colder and more powerful than it was before it went under. The geometry of your inner architecture is realigning itself at a depth that the surface of your life hasn't caught up with yet. Roots are forming that will eventually support a presence far beyond what your current circumstances could sustain. Be gentle with yourself here. Do not interpret the stillness as failure. Do not fill it with frantic activity or anxious seeking, or the pressure to make something happen just so you can feel like you're still moving. The stillness is sacred. It is one of the most sacred phases of the entire journey. Let it do its work. Sit in it. Breathe in it. Trust it the way the seed trusts the dark soil that cannot see. While you've been in that stillness, something else has been moving. You may not see it yet, but people around you are already responding to the shift within you. Maybe relationships have changed. Some have deepened in ways that feel surprising. Others have grown distant in ways that feel inevitable. Maybe you have found yourself drawn to different books, different landscapes, different conversations than you were a year ago. Maybe music that once felt meaningful has grown hollow, and something that once seemed strange or peripheral now feels essential. Maybe certain places or conversations feel different than they used to, heavier or lighter, louder or quieter. You may have noticed that you can sense the energy of a room before you've fully entered it, that you know how a conversation will feel before the first word is spoken, that your body responds to environments and people with an accuracy that your mind sometimes struggles to explain or justify. That's not your imagination. That's your frequency clarifying. When one current changes direction, everything downstream is affected. You don't need to announce your transformation. You are already transmitting it. The people in your life who are attuned to something deeper are already feeling the shift in you, even if they couldn't articulate it, even if what they feel expresses itself only as a vague sense that something about you is different, cleaner, quieter, more real. Those who are meant to resonate with your frequency will feel it before you ever say a word. And those who can't, those whose path is taking them toward different waters, they were never meant to travel this part of the river with you. Let them find their own current. Release them without judgment, without guilt, without the exhausting work of trying to bring them to a place their own soul is not yet ready for. There's no grief in that, only flow. And then comes the phase that feels the hardest, because it asks something of you that nothing in this world prepared you for. It asks you to set down what you've been carrying, the beliefs about who you should be that were handed to you before you were old enough to question them. The narratives that were written for you by people who meant well, but who were working from their own limited maps of what was possible. The weight of expectations placed on you by a world that didn't understand what it was looking at, that saw your sensitivity as fragility, your depth as difficulty, your refusal to fit as a problem, to be managed rather than a gift to be received. The emotional residue of other people's pain that settled into your field, simply because you were sensitive enough to absorb it, because you were open in a way that others weren't, because that openness is part of what you are. You have been carrying things that were never meant to be yours, and the time to set them down is not someday, it is now. All of it, you have permission to set it down. Every stone, every weight, every version of yourself you performed to feel safe in rooms that weren't built for who you actually are. Every mask you constructed carefully so that the world would accept you without flinching. You don't need those masks anymore. Not because the world has necessarily changed, but because you have, because you are beginning to understand that safety was never in the mask. Safety is in the frequency. Safety is in being so fully yourself that there is nothing in you that can be rattled by a world that doesn't yet understand what you are. The river doesn't carry every stone it passes. It lets them sink to the bottom and keeps flowing. You can keep flowing too. You were never meant to carry all of that. The carrying was only ever temporary, a season of the journey, not the destination. Here is something that must be said clearly, and with all the care it deserves. You are not late. You are not behind. There is no cosmic schedule you have failed to meet, no deadline you've missed, no window that has closed because you took too long to find it. The detours, the delays, the years of not being able to name what you were feeling, none of it was wasted. Not a single morning of confusion, not a single night of dark uncertainty, not a single year of trying to fit into a life that didn't quite belong to you. All of it was part of the formation. Every moment of confusion was water working on you, wearing away the edges that needed wearing, softening what needed to be made pliable. Every moment of darkness was pressure forming, something that could only be formed in the deep, the way diamonds form, not in the light, but in the depths, not in comfort, but in compression. In the ancient records, in the wisdom that was encoded into the stones of the temples and the waters of the sacred rivers, long before this civilization had words for what it knew, there is no such thing as a late awakening. There is only the perfect moment, and yours is not approaching. It is here. The tide doesn't rush, but it always arrives. It cannot do otherwise. It is pulled by forces older than the shore it shapes, and it comes not because it is forced, but because it is inevitable. Your awakening is as inevitable as the tide, not because someone is forcing it, but because it is who you are. And who you are cannot stay dormant forever. So what does it mean to step into this current? What does it look like to actually live from this place? Not as an idea, not as a hope for someday, but as a daily, embodied, walking reality. It doesn't look like grand gestures. It doesn't look like a sudden dramatic transformation that everyone around you immediately recognizes. It doesn't look like the version of awakening that gets performed on a stage or announced across a platform. Those who built the temples along the Nile, those architects of stone and frequency who understood that certain geometries could hold a vibration for thousands of years, who aligned their most sacred structures with the stars, with a precision that still humbles modern science. They understood something that the modern world has largely forgotten. They understood that the most powerful alignment is not the spectacular one. It is the quiet one, the steady one, the one that happens in the still moments before the world wakes, in the private commitments made to no audience, in the small daily choices to return to who you actually are instead of performing who you were taught to be. Your mission, if that word feels true to you, begins not with a dramatic announcement, but with presence. Full, authentic, unhurried presence. Not with having every answer neatly arranged before you act. Not with having mapped the entire shape of what you're here to do before you take a single step, but with being here. Fully here. Rooted in this moment, in this body, in this breath, and trusting the current to carry you. The river doesn't need to understand the full course of its journey in order to flow. It needs only to keep moving in accordance with what it is. That is the assignment, not heroics, not perfection. Alignment, the daily, humble, courageous practice of coming back to what is true in you and letting that truth be the compass by which you navigate everything else. Now hear this, because this is the deepest truth this transmission carries. You're not lost. You never were. You chose to forget, not because you were weak, but because the kind of awakening you're here to experience required you to find your way back from the deepest depth. Like a pearl that can only form under pressure, in darkness, at the bottom of the ocean, what you are becoming could only be shaped by exactly what you've been through. The pearl doesn't form in shallow water. It doesn't form in safety or comfort or ease. It forms where the pressure is greatest, in the place the light barely reaches, inside something that had to close around it completely before it could begin the slow, patient work of creating something irreplaceable. You are that pearl. You have been forming in the deep, and you are almost ready to rise. Every moment of not knowing was the ocean doing its work. Every moment of searching was the river carving the channel that would eventually carry you here. Even the moments that felt like complete loss, when a door you had been pressing against suddenly closed, when a relationship that felt essential ended, when a version of your life that you had worked so hard to build turned out to belong to a smaller version of yourself. Even those moments were the water working, were the current redirecting, were the ocean, in its ancient and incomprehensible wisdom, refusing to let you settle in water too shallow for what you are. You are not here to fix yourself. You never needed fixing. That framing the idea that you are a problem to be solved, a wound to be healed, a broken thing in search of the pieces that will make it whole, that framing was never true. It was handed to you by a world that interpreted your depth as damage and your difference as deficiency. But depth is not damage. Difference is not deficiency. You are not a broken version of a human. You are a whole version of something the world is still finding language for. And you are here to remember that, not to perform it, not to prove it, simply to remember it and to live from that remembering so fully that it changes the frequency of every room you enter, every conversation you have, every life that brushes against yours, and to let that remembering ripple outward quietly, powerfully, without effort into every life your frequency touches. That's not a small thing. That's not a secondary mission. That is the work. The waters of Sirius have always understood what the surface world has taken much longer to see. That transformation doesn't announce itself. It moves like a tide. It reshapes the shore without ever forcing the stone. It doesn't demand that the stone accept its influence. It doesn't explain or justify its movement. It simply moves in accordance with its nature. And the shore is changed. That is who you are. That is what you do, simply by being fully present in your own frequency. You don't have to save anyone. You don't have to fix anyone. You don't have to have the perfect words or the perfect answers. You simply have to be here fully, honestly, unapologetically here, and the ripple will do what ripples do. The fact that you stayed through this entire message, that you didn't turn away when it got deep, that something in you kept saying, yes, keep listening, that tells everything about where you are right now. You're ready. Not because everything has been resolved, not because the fog has fully lifted and you can see the entire path laid out before you in perfect clarity. Not because you have figured it all out or arrived at some final destination of understanding, but because you're still here, still listening, still willing to sit in the uncertainty and feel the signal beneath the noise. Still willing to let something older and wiser than your current circumstances speak into your becoming. And that, more than any credential or milestone or external validation, is what readiness actually looks like. Readiness is not certainty. Readiness is willingness, and you are willing. That much is unmistakably clear. Tonight, if it feels right, place your hand over your heart, close your eyes, and say quietly to yourself, I remember who I am. I trust the waters that carried me here. I am ready to flow into what comes next. Let those words move through you, not as a performance, but as a declaration. A declaration made not to the world, but to the deepest part of yourself, the part that has been waiting for you to arrive at exactly this moment, and say exactly that. Let it be the beginning of a conversation between you and your own remembering. Let it be the stone dropped into still water, sending its rings outward into everything that comes next. Before you go, leave one word in the comments, just one that describes what you felt during this message. Then find someone else's word and respond with encouragement. This isn't just a comment section, it's a space where starseeds recognize each other, and that recognition carries more power than you know. If something in this message touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you'd like to keep receiving these transmissions, subscribe. The waters of Sirius will carry us to the next one. You're not just watching, you're remembering. This is your space, and I'm grateful you were here.